Hello and welcome to this week's look at action and stunts on film and television. How are you? Welcome to Friday, and we are celebrating one Vic Armstrong. He's already been celebrated on a number of occasions, but primarily in conjunction with this by the James Bond British fan club, GB007, who had the Lifetime Achievement Award bestowed upon him in a glittering ceremony underneath the Concorde in Manchester. There's a place called the Concorde Centre. I didn't realise this place existed, but there is a Concorde Centre where yon Concorde sits. And it's a beautiful hangar, and it is designed in such a way that you can have dinner under it. There are tables and chairs laid out, and there was a bar there, and there was food served, and there was guests, and it was all a marvellous evening. So you have these two icons of the 20th century. You have the Concorde, which changed passenger flight forever, and you have Vic Armstrong, who changed the face of action with not only as a performer but as a coordinator, second unit director and first unit director, and being the patriarch of a family who keeps growing. I think he said so many people involved with him, his brother Andy, their children combined, that one of the Spider-Man pictures might have been the third Spider-Man. And there was 9 Armstrongs working on the picture. It's not bad going, is it, when you've got the family business, as originally it was referred to as Stunts Incorporated, which was Vic starting out organising a business when they were working on Bridge Too Far. It was him, it was Paul Weston, it was Dougie Robinson, and Dickie Beer were the team members there. And they were responsible for creating the action on that picture. It's really nice to have a situation where he gets recognised. I mean, I know he's recognised because he's one of those very interesting characters. He is a stuntman. And traditionally, as we've discussed on this show before, the stunt professionals don't normally get recognised in the same way that the actors do. He's had such a relationship with certain actors, predominantly Harrison Ford, and there are many photographs available nowadays on the internet. You can see the two of them side by side, and Harrison tells the stories that, he has been mistaken. Oh, that's how he got the job in the first place. Originally on Raiders, people going, do you know there's a stunt guy here who looks really a lot like you, and vice versa. There's an actor on this thing which is the spitting image of you, and that's how that started, that relationship. And they worked on a number of pictures together over the years. They haven't, I think the last time they worked together on film was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Vic came out of retirement, took 3 months off, and got himself back into a fighting weight, to come back and not only double Harrison, but also to coordinate the action on the picture. It is regarded by many as one of the very best. Raiders itself, as Vic has said himself over the years, is one of those standalone movies that, regardless of the fact that it's part of the Indiana Jones pictures, is as good a movie on its own legs. It doesn't necessarily need to be attached to any other movie or any other selection of films. The amount of other directors and other writers who have created movies based around that picture and the concepts of it and the action concepts, which is why, his goal in life was to come at action from a slightly different level. If you remember back the movie Green Ice, and my old pal Roy Alon jumping from the City Bank, I believe it was in Mexico City, 2 parts of a big fall. The first part was the fan descender, created by Vic, or this particular version of it created by Vic and created by Dave Bickers. It was originated, it was an old piece of military equipment used for the purpose of parachute testing. They could roll out the line, control the speed of the line as it ran out. And so this was just looked at in a slightly different concept. And Bicker said, I've got an idea how we can make this work. And the idea was to have Roy falling into camera in a controlled situation whereby he's literally being lowered, being dropped with a cable attached to him into camera. Then they cut, and you get the second part of the fall, which is the 100-foot high fall from the bank into an airbag. It's still regarded by many as one of the great moments, the great high falls, the great everything. It's absolutely super. It's primarily the way that it's shot, also Roy's body movement in the air, the rotation of his arm. He is controlling his fall. He is trying to keep himself level before having then to flip over and land on his back for the final part of the fall. And the fact that that was the first really high fall he'd done. He'd done 40 and 50 feet before. He'd done 60 feet before. But he'd never done 100. And him and Vic were both due to do 100-footers. Vic was doing The Omen, the final conflict, and was doing a high fall from a viaduct. Roy was going to do it from there. And Roy never really got a chance to test his. They were at the airship sheds at Cardington, RAF Cardington, and a rig had been set up. And they'd gone up into the roof space and were in a position where Roy had got to the 100-foot mark, where, what was it, 80 feet? It might have been 80 feet. And Vic says, look, go up above me. Go up above me, watch me go, and then when I hit the airbag and we'll reset it up again, you come down to this level and then you can go. So you get an idea of how much further it is. And we talk about this before, this whole idea of when you're on the floor looking up, it is a completely different animal to being up there looking down. Something inside your body says, whoa, wait a second, this is way further. And yet on the ground, 30 feet looks like it's, piece of cake, no problem at all. But when you're up there looking down, it looks like you're going to step off the edge of the world. And so psychologically, Vic said to him, go up above me, watch me go, which is what he did. And he tucked and landed in the bag, and then Roy was coming down, and they couldn't inflate the bag again. There'd been an issue, some sort of problem, and they weren't able to do it. So when he goes from that bank in 1981 in Mexico, that's him doing it for the first time. And the fan descender was the invention that the two of them had come up together, Bickers and Vic. They'd come up and they created this thing, and all of a sudden, a 100-foot fall wasn't as far as you had to go. Stuntmen, these guys were part of a thing called the Ton-Up Club. It was 100-foot, and there was maybe 5 or 6 of them that could do it, and would do it on varying pictures or television shows. Movies predominantly, because at that time television still didn't have the budget to afford it. But, little moments along the way, and then later on in life, that fan descender became the decelerator, which of course Lane Levitt and people like Dar Robinson were using and creating and being able to. It's a play on the whole fan descender thing, but it's the same similar idea, being able to control that fall. So there's a whole bunch of these bits and pieces which have been used over the years. Vic, even though a lot of the we're going to show you the footage. There's a wonderful video that I put up during the week, which was created by the Mark Woolbridge, I believe, the guy who is responsible for the videos there on the site, and he created this fabulous video with Vic doing little bits and pieces as a performer, but there's a large proportion of that as a coordinator, as a second unit director, showing the type of scenes, the type of footage that he has captured over the years, making, in certain cases, some of these movies not great movies, it has to be said, but the action is key. He was once told, what was he once asked about? Cutthroat Island. We've covered it on this show. Cutthroat Island. They said, "Geez, that was a terrible movie." He said, "But the action was amazing," and it was terrific action. And that's all he's concerned about from an action and a direction and a coordinating and a second unit direction point of view. His job is to make that moment as exciting as possible, and he does this. He ticks boxes. Yes, I've done that. That's more exciting than the previous movie that we did, or the previous gag that we did in this film. You're always trying to top yourself and always trying to go above and beyond, better, and that's the beauty of Vic. And the team of people that he surrounds himself with. I'm very lucky in being in a situation where I've known Vic for over 20 years. We've met on a number of occasions. Firstly, on the set of Die Another Day, where we were filming down in Aldershot, and watching him work from storyboards to creating those shots himself. That was very exciting to watch the man work. It was also very exciting watching the other stunt performers, who there was an air about their performance as well, because Vic was in charge. He goes onto a set and things change. It's got nothing to do with being a name. It's about having the ability to control what you do. And when Vic turns up on a movie set, people get slightly more excited, because the governor's here, and you get a chance to work under his instruction. That's very important. It's a great shot of adrenaline for many performers. And as with Bond films that he's worked on over the years, he's done some remarkable work, not only as a stunt double, but also as a coordinator and second unit director. And he will have received numerous phone calls, as all coordinators or performers on Bond pictures will have received over the years, from somebody going, "Oh, can I just get a day on it? Just if you've got a moment, I just want to be a face on it. I just want to add Bond to my resume, because it's that important." And it is that important as far as a franchise is concerned. It's monumentally important as far as stunt performers are concerned, because it is the blue ribbon event. There are action movies, and then there are Bond films, and it's that simple. And Vic has been at the forefront of that for many, many years. So what I wanted to do, and I know that there's this other video going about, and there's some other bits and pieces about him as a filmmaker, and I have no compunction with those at all, and I love all that work. That's terrific. For me, I want to see Vic as a performer, and you can see from the video that I put together, there's bits and pieces on here where he's again just doing stuff slightly differently, and being able then as a coordinator go back and go, well, when I worked on this, we did this, we found a different way of doing this, and little bits and pieces. So I'm going to show you a video now which is a celebration of Vic as a performer, and we'll regroup on the other side and have a chat about it. Here we go.
Do
fabulous. Love that. And it's a wonderful celebration of everything that is Vic Armstrong. That particular video, as I say, it is based around him as a performer. I love some of that early stuff, you know. Did you see there was a clip there? One of the early clips there was from a movie called Subterfuge, which was from 1968-69 time, and he turns up on the walkway bridge with a knuckle duster, and he's standing next to Derek Martin. Derek Martin, you will remember as an actor on EastEnders, played Charlie. Do you remember? He played Charlie on EastEnders, and was on there for many, many years. But originally, as with a lot of some of these actors who became, I tell you who was another one, was Mike Reed. Mike Reed was also a stuntman back in some of the early days, and was an actor who did lots of bit of falling about and reacting to punches and being bits and pieces before he became a comedian, and before he turned up on EastEnders as Frank Butcher. So, you know, all of that sort of stuff, and there was a familiar face back then. The stuff from Dead Cert, I absolutely love it, on a number of factors. I'm a big horse racing fan anyway, particularly National Hunt. Vic wanted to be a steeplechase jockey, and this movie, if you've never seen it, it is available on YouTube. I think it's in bits, but it is available to watch the whole thing. It's a Dick Francis novel, and Judi Dench is in it, and her husband Michael Williams plays the villain, right? He's the villain of the piece. Vic is doubling him, and there are a number of moments in the film where falls have to happen. The horses have to fall on purpose. Now, here is the deal, and we discussed this briefly in the podcast. Falling for real and falling because you have to on cue, they're two very different things. There is a moment in the picture early on where stuntman Bronco McLaughlin is doubling or is playing the part of a horse rider, a jockey. They come over a water jump and they part company is what happens. But you can see that he's had to leave the horse relatively early in order to first clear the water jump and then land on the edge of the water. Right, so it's a fall. It's a very spectacular fall, but you can see that it's just kind of staged quite a bit. Whenever there is a racing movie, you often see that a lot of these moments are staged. The movie Champions is another good example, another Grand National picture. Terry Biddlecombe, great racing jockey and later on trainer, was one of those individuals who was a technical advisor and was showing the way in which the horses would be moving during the race. How can we capture our lead character and move it across into shot, etc., without having any issues? Now, what they used back then in the 80s, they had helmet cams. They'd been invented by that time. It's all about weight with jockeys, and then you have the camera, you have the helmet, and a little camera at the front. Nowadays, of course, they've got GoPros, and they've got all sorts of bits and pieces which are designed for exactly this thing. Lightweight, small, compact, not going to be an issue. You're not going to gain additional weight. Back in 1974, Vic was wearing a film camera on his helmet. There's photographs to prove it. Here it is now. There's the picture. I showed it in that clip earlier on, but that's the photograph. And that's a very hefty camera, and it's going to be, you know, slightly cumbersome. Your head will be moving about backwards and forwards, and yet this camera is pretty rigid. There's not a great deal of movement. It's quite heavy, and he has to ride around the Grand National course at Aintree, jumping the fences, controlling the horse, while remembering that that's the image that we're trying to get here. We're not trying to get this as the camera bounces up and down. We're trying to get a relatively steady frame as you go over a fence around the other side. You can see from some of those shots he's really done that. So there's an engineering background to all of this too. He was the first to go around the Grand National course wearing a helmet cam, as it was then referred to, but just a camera on the helmet. Then, of course, you have the second part of that, where the major stunt in the sequence in the movie is where Michael Williams is thrown from the horse and through the side of the approaching fence. Now, it later turns out that Lord Oaksey, John Oaksey, is the guy on the other side of him, who is riding against him. So they've done all of this, and what Vic has decided is that if he goes early, he's then built breakaway fence. A breakaway fence has happened at the first part, and it might be, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 feet of breakaway fence. So it allows him to go out of the saddle through the breakaway fence before getting to the real fencing that arrives just in line with the fence on the side there. And of course, you're travelling at speed. You may be putting a marker down to try and think, well, I've got to go by that point. When I get to that point, I have to go. There's nothing else for it. And so that's what he's done. And momentum, and maybe just the additional little bit of speed going on, has taken him just that little bit further. So he's gone through the breakaway fencing and has wrapped himself around the real fencing that has started here, and he's got to that point and wrapped himself right around it. In the film, the image, you cut the scene and you see that Michael Williams's character is impaled on the fencing at the side, whereas in reality he's gone the length of the side of the fence and then has wrapped himself around the real fencing. So, he got himself in a situation where he broke a rib and he got some injuries and bits and pieces, but had to go on and finish the filming. That's what you have to do. So all of these things, these are the little things. These little things will then play on his mind, and then when he's in another picture or something else, you go, I remember when I used to do this. I tell you what we'll do. Instead of doing that, let's do this instead. And let's film it from over there in a slightly different angle. And all of a sudden, you start to see things shaping up. And this is from his own experience. And the reason that he is successful as a stunt coordinator and as a second unit director is because of all of that incredible experience he received in the game, because he started in 65. He started in 1965 at the peak of his physical strength, was probably the mid-70s, and was getting work left, right and centre. Had already doubled Bond on Her Majesty's Secret Service for their little skiing sequence. Went on to double Roger in Live and Let Die just for a brief moment. Was also Timothy Dalton's double on Mary Queen of Scots. Did the riding doubling for him there, and of course then had worked on numerous other pictures, big and small, but they had got bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where everything he touched turned to gold. So it's a great celebration of his career. Vic's, I say, been lucky enough to receive a number of Lifetime Achievement Awards. One that always sticks out in my mind is the BAFTA Fellowship, which he received back in 2001. It's called the Michael Balkan Award, in memory of the man that created the studio system back in Ealing Studios, Michael Balkan. And it's also nice to think that I had a little something to do with that, because I had been writing to BAFTA, old school writing, back in those days for a number of months, endless letters, which I knew that the president at that time was Lord Attenborough, Richard Attenborough. I was a great fan of his, and was able to communicate and send letters to them. And I had received a number of responses back saying, we've passed on your letter to the president and thank you for your time, but never really expected any further correspondence from him, and didn't receive any until one Sunday evening when the phone rang and I answered the phone, and a voice that is very familiar and couldn't possibly anybody else said, "Is that John Orty?" And I said, "It is." And he said, "Oh, hello there, this is Richard Attenborough." Well, I nearly fell through the floor. I then had to sit down for a moment, and I said, Lord Attenborough. And he said, no, call me Dickie, he said. And then we started a general conversation about the letters that I had been writing. which were around, can we do something in connection with the stunt department, because they don't get the recognition that they deserve. There does need to be a celebration of the action industry, and having said that, I think that a very good start would be your friend Vic Armstrong, who had worked, of course, as a performer and assistant coordinator on Young Winston in 1972, and then of course was the assistant to Alf Joint for A Bridge Too Far in 77. And over a number of phone calls that took place over a period of time, we got round the situation of going, well, yes, I think that's probably a very good idea, and maybe you could suggest a few ideas in connection with clips or something of that nature, which I did, and it was a great thrill to see it finally come together on BAFTA that evening, and so I always hold that very dear to my heart, that there was the slightest tiny little bit that we managed to get something done, the way that Hollywood and the way that 87 North and the way that David Leitch and the people involved with Fall Guy are trying to do something in connection with stunt recognition in the world at the moment as far as the Oscars is concerned. Well, we tried to do a similar situation back then. We were lucky, and we managed to get a situation done, and I sincerely hope that everything else falls into place. But a celebration is a celebration, and a celebration of Vic, not only him as a performer, but a coordinator, second unit director, and as a member of this remarkable family that are all involved in the business in some shape or form, predominantly in stunts. It is a great celebration, and we congratulate you, Vic. We salute you. We know you watched the show, is also because you were back in touch with us very recently. So on behalf of me and everybody who watches the show, we want to wish you all the very best, you and Wendy. There are some terrific photographs. We're going to show some of those photographs during the course of the outro here, and I sincerely hope that you had a fabulous time. I know that you were filming away, so you had to fly in and then fly back out again, but if you do get an opportunity to do something else for the British Fan Club, I'm sure they'd be absolutely thrilled to have your involvement. Thank you once again for everything you do, and for everybody else. We will regroup next week for more of the same. This is the third video in 7 days. I did say I'd do 3 in 7, and I have. We had a technical issue last week with some laptop problems, but they're all rectified, and here we are. A third video in 7 days. So I want to thank you all for your patience, and God love the lot of you. And until next time when we do it all again, it is bye for now.